let's go back to the bees' life cycle. All right, what do I do when I get home? When's the next time I go check on my bees? All right, so how long, I'm going to quiz you now. You should have learned a few things by now. How long does it take for an egg to hatch?
3 days.
3 days. All right, let's suppose that you're moving your bees tonight and you had to slam on the brakes at a stoplight or something and the bees got bumped around, or you got stung unloading in the night and you dropped your beehive out of the back of your truck or something, whatever. Imagine something, the queen got smashed. How are we going to know?
No eggs, next time we look.
All right, so if we looked in our hive in 2 days, let's say we wanted to look for eggs, all right? Let's look for eggs. In 2 days, would we know if the queen's gone? No. That'd be 2, just over 2. So let's look in the beehive 3 days from now. So the eggs that are in there right now will have already hatched, and there'll be new eggs. You'll see day-old larvae in 3 days, and if the queen's doing fine, you'll see eggs in 3 days from now. Right? So I would leave them alone for a little while, let them get used to their new location, look in there 3 days, and look for eggs. And then if you're going to throw a feeder tray in there and feed them something, do that in 3 days. All of these bees got plenty of honey for a week or 2 anyway. And if it rains and we still got a good nectar flow on, we're probably just fine. I might be worrying you a little bit more about feeding them, but you know, last year happened, so keep an eye on it.
To start out with that first box, how soon do I need to start putting the other 2 on top?
Yeah, good. Sometimes people will just put all 3 boxes on, come back in the summer. We don't want to do that. We want to put 1 box on at a time. So right now the bees in these nuke boxes have about expanded out on the 5 frame, and so they're ready for more space. We want to wait until the bees are working on the 9th, 10th, 8th frame in there, not the 10th. If they filled out, drawn comb out, and they're working on all 10 frames, then it's you're maybe a little bit too slow getting it on there. By the time they're on the 8th, 9th frame, somewhere in there, then you want to be ready with the new box. All right. So, and the best way to do that is going to be since you're starting out with all foundation, new equipment. Sometimes the bees, when you go to put this second box on, the bees are reluctant to go up there. So take a frame out of the bottom box with some honey on it. They've already done some work on it, and trade it with one of the ones foundation from the other box. Just swap it. That's bait. It'll get them up there, get them going. Okay. All right. So you should be ready for another box. If we have an average year, I would say by the end of this month, first week in July, you'll be ready for another box. Check them about once a week to see where they're at. And then in July, first part of August, you'll be ready for the 3rd box, hopefully, if all goes well. Last year, most people didn't even get 2 boxes worth of bees. Honey, didn't even use the 3rd box. 3 years ago, you would have needed a 4th box, or else you would have needed to extracted that honey out of the 3rd box and put it right back on the next day or 2 for a refill. So
once you've got your 3rd box on there, is it only the 3rd box that you extract honey from?
Yeah. Occasionally, if they're clear full down there, you can snitch a frame of honey out of there if you know they've got plenty of time before the end of the blossoms, before fall. You can take it because you know they're going to replace it. But usually those 2 bottom boxes we leave for the bees. The 3rd box is surplus for the beekeeper. When you get in the hive, when you get to this point, pretend this is the bottom board, and you can use the lid for a bottom board if you. So I'm going to take the lid off, maybe on 3 boxes high. I don't want to put a bunch of smoke on the 3rd box up or the 2nd box, drive all the bees down into the bottom box, because by the time I get to the bottom box, well, I'll have it full of bees, and by this time I've been in there so long they're starting to get mad. So take your hive tool, take your top box off, pry it off. Don't set it down like this. There'll be bridge comb all over here and dripping honey and bees crawling all over it. You're going to smash bees and get dirty. This is how you set a box down. Set it down to the side on its edge, like that. Okay. So now all the bees are there. Just leave them alone. I didn't really smoke them much out of there. We got a whole bunch of bees in the 3rd box, the 2nd box, the lid. They're still crawling over the lid. Those are bees I don't have to deal with while I'm getting in a really strong comb. Now I come down to the bottom box. Okay. Then I can do what I need to. All right. So if you have some old comb, so what I'm saying is you should be in the bottom box. You got to look in the bottom box. A lot of beekeepers don't even know what's going on in the bottom box. By the time they're done with that third one up and got into a little bit in the second one, and the bees are getting mad, they just put the lid on and well, hope everything's okay down there. So you don't have to do this every time. If you know what you're looking for, you know what you're doing, then you don't always have to go all the way down to the bottom box, because usually that's the queen's brood chamber, and there usually isn't as much going on there that we're concerned about with the media. So you do need to get in there occasionally. So that's how you'll do it. So now you can, let's say it's middle of July right now and the bees are getting really crowded. Sometimes the queen can run out of space. So what I might want to do in this bottom box is usually on the sides there's going to be some honey. So I'm going to take this frame of honey out. This is a management style. You don't have to do it like this, but it's not a bad idea. I might take this frame of honey out if there's not a lot of pollen. Usually you'll find a lot of pollen in the bottom box. And then I'm going to take and give the queen some more space. All right? I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to take some foundation or some drawn comb if you've already extracted some honey. Maybe this is August and you've extracted some honey. And I'll put that back in the middle. I want that queen to stay in the bottom box. I don't want her to keep going up, because then she's likely to get into the third box up in your honey supers. Okay, so we just gave the queen some more space. So now I have those two frames that I just took out of the bottom box that have been down there for a year or two or whatever, and they're darker, but there's honey in them. I could extract those. I could put them in the upper box so that next time I do extract anyway, one of those frames would end up being uncapped and take the honey out of those. And then if it's too dark, you can make a decision at that time whether to take that old foundation out of there and put a new one in.
It's got brood and eggs in there. What do you do with it?
Well, so now we took out honey.
Right.
We took out honey. We didn't have brood and eggs. We leave all the brood and eggs.
The dark ones though.
Yeah. Well, so if you wanted to take a real dark one and put it in an upper box so those brood would hatch out, and then if depending on the position where it is in the hive, the bees will fill it back up with honey instead of the queen coming by and laying eggs in it. Okay. So when you extract that honey, then you've got an empty frame of dark comb. You can just pop it out there, put your new foundation. So we don't just leave all those 10 frames that are in the bottom box aren't going to be the same 10 frames that are in that bottom box 3 years from now. Okay. Right? They would have got moved around. Right? And in the fall or early spring, maybe a good time to do that. Here's another way that you'll cycle frames through. So typically in the springtime, you're at 2 boxes. The honey, most of the honey is in your second box up. And that's where the heat is. Heat rises up to the underside of the lid, and so the bees will spend their time there clustered moving around that second box eating the honey as they go. Now in the springtime, they're going to fill up this one first. That's where all the bees are. That's where the queen's going to start laying eggs, because that's where the heat is. That's where the honey is. But the bottom box will probably be pretty empty next March. And so a good idea then is to swap your boxes. Right? So because bees are going to be more likely to swarm if there's no space above them to put more honey. The bottom box might be empty, but there's no third box on there, and this one's starting to get filled up, then they're going to swarm even though they've got space down below. So the easy way to fix that is my hive body, my super just became a hive body, and now my hive body is the super. So now they've got space above, the queen's down below. All your older comb that has had that's getting darker is in the second box. That's another way to bring those frames down there that are old and dark up to where you can use them, where you can recycle them and move them out.